All right. Hello, everyone. Just give me a moment while I get this shared over to Books of Horror real quick. I have to do it from my phone. Everything. Okay, I believe we're good now. So, welcome back, everyone, to Books of Horror Live. Today I have Briana Cox and Kaylee Pedersen. So, thank you both for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we're really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Checking the feed on Facebook Live. Okay. So, just to get started, whoever wants to go first, please introduce yourself to everyone and let them know what you're all about.
I can go. Hi, nice to meet y'all. I'm Kaylee Pedersen. I am the author of Sacrificial Animals, which released in 2024 and is a Midwestern queer Gothic novel set on a 1,000-acre farm in rural Nebraska. Was a finalist for the Libby Book Awards, Fiction Honor, the Nebraska Book Awards, and longlisted for the Otherwise Award for authors innovating on gender and speculative fiction, and also named to Barnes & Noble's Best Horror Books of 2024, as well as Esquire, Pace Magazine, etc. And then my next novel, The Minimalist, which is about obsession, classical music, and adoption, comes out in August of 2026. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to my friend Briana about queer and BIPOC horror and all things spooky.
And I am Briana Cox. I have spent a lot of my life working as a horror and speculative fiction screenwriter, and my horror novel debut is coming out in March 2026. It's called Indigence. It's like a parasite body horror, borderline vampire horror book.
Nice.
So if that is up your alley, I hope you guys can pick up that pre-order now through Graveside Press. And yeah, I am really excited to be here and talk with Kaylee and RJ as well.
All right. So, I am. If anybody's watching, please drop us a comment just so I can see if they're working. And then anybody watching also, you can drop questions at any time and I'll try and address them with Kaylee or Briana. So, all right. Who wants to go first with a little interview portion?
I just went first, so maybe you go, Briana.
Yep, I can go first for that bit.
Yeah. We'll just switch on and off. So, the typical first question I like to ask folks is, what got you started on your writing journey?
Now, for me, so I have been writing pretty much since I can remember. I accidentally recently found an old floppy disk from when I was like literally 6, and floppy disks were still a thing that had some of my first like short stories on them that were like a paragraph long, and they were all like horror based. So I guess I was a spooky child as well. But yes, I've been writing for quite a while. Starting around like 2018, 2019, I started doing more theater and stage play work in like Nashville and Los Angeles. And like around 2020, who knows why, theater was hard to do. So I started getting more into like screenwriting and screenplays and was living there for quite a bit until I adapted one of my like unproduced screenplays into this novel that hopefully we can talk more about. So yeah, I've been writing a bunch all the time. It is a compulsion.
Yeah, absolutely. So, oh, so, I mean, you're giving away maybe something with you know, the floppy disk era. So it's been a
It
while
was,
since
yeah.
I've even heard of someone using those.
Yeah, I was a child who like watched those fun like how-to videos about the World Wide Web, if that dates me at all.
Right. So yeah.
Did you like those typing games? Those were like my favorite in the computer lab.
Oh yeah, they were so fun. Like actually, that's how I learned how to type. I can't be mad at them.
Just trying to switch. So I'm trying to switch it when whoever's talking. So Kaylee, same question to you. What got you started on your writing journey?
I mean, for me, actually, I kind of came at it from a really strange angle, I think. Well, not strange, but just I always enjoyed reading and writing as a child, but for many years I was a very serious classical pianist. This is very ironic because I don't play piano anymore. I'm an opera singer now. But I thought for a long time I would be a musician. Then in high school, I had a really wonderful English teacher, Dutch Vic Thorne, who really inspired me. And he really encouraged me to continue working on my craft. So around the age of 13, 14, I started to think maybe this is something I'm not too bad at. Maybe this is something I can continue to pursue in college. So in college, I studied ancient Greek and Latin in classics and just really fell in love with like literature, language, history, all of that. And yeah, after that, I kind of like Brianna, got a day job and continued to do like theater, like opera and stuff. But I always had this idea for a novel in the back of my mind, and I started writing it in 2018, and that became Sacrificial Animals. So I felt really lucky that that all worked out.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's a very different path, like going from the piano to the singing and then to the writing. So, but that's does any of that past um feed into your writing now?
Yeah, in both sort of a literal and a stylistic sense. My second novel, The Minimalist, is about a classical composer. So it really delves deeply into my experiences in classical music. I would say it's kind of a combination of Tar and The Piano Teacher, if you've seen those movies. So it really deals with classical music in the contemporary realm rather than as a historical artifact, and the effects of the industry and being a musician on, our modern day, including things like Me Too and classical music. And then I would say on a stylistic level, I always really strive to write beautiful musical sentences. And so the ideas and concepts of like rhythm and pacing and phrasing have really made their way into my work, I think.
Okay, that's very awesome. I was a band kid in high school, so I know I have an appreciation for music. So, all right. Um, I do see we had a comment, but it's not showing up here on the live for us, and it was just Holly Landis telling everybody hi. So, hi, Holly. Don't know why it's not working, but we'll soldier on. The the next thing that I like to ask authors, and we'll go with Brienne started, so we'll keep with Kaylee this time, is Are you a plotter or a pantser or a hybrid of both?
Completely pants. Like just YOLO 420 constantly, no plan, no ideas, just typing, just vibes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, what do you enjoy most about that? Well,
I
you
think
said good vibes, so um,
Yeah, I think for me, I love the thrill of discovery. I discover so much about my characters and the story by kind of peeling away at it layer by layer as I do drafting and redrafting. Um, and I think for me, literature is a place of play and of surprise and spontaneity. So anytime I try to outline or dictate the story in advance, it often feels really constricting for me as a person. And just for me personally, it just isn't the right move for me, but I also respect and kind of sometimes wish I could outline because that would help me so much. But I think
yeah,
everybody has to have their own strategy and journey for sure.
you have to do your best because uh, a lot of the writers that I've talked to on here, they don't fit in that neat box of one or the other or a mixture of both, and it's just a form of discovery of how writing works for you. So yeah, I think you nailed it. All right, so now it's Brianna's turn.
And for me, like I feel like I always try so hard to have like a plot outline set out, and it never works. It works for about like a page, and then I deviate from it. So I am definitely a pantser as well. I've found the thing that works best for me since I'm kind of like a hybrid writer, the different mediums that I do, is I typically write a screenplay first and then I use the screenplay as an outline for a book, just because the book is kind of naturalistically like an expansion on a screenplay that's much more contained. And that has been essentially my personal version of outlining because I cannot just sit down and write an outline for something and just stick to it. So I'm like a pantser for screenplays, and then I will use the screenplay as like the general framework for a book that may or may not be the same thing by the time we get to the end. But that's how I typically do things now.
That's actually it's actually really clever and probably really efficient to write a screenplay first and basically, like you said, use that as your outline because then what you're doing is you're going in and filling in details essentially of the story of like more prose writing.
Mm. Yeah, it's
So
been a very kind of interesting and I think helpful for me just the way my brain works means of like having a foundation to work off of because prose just by nature of how they work is like much more expansive. It has much more like internal like mechanisms and you can look more into the internal world of the characters. So for the
yeah,
most part that's all I really have to expand on when I turn it into a book. So my book writing process is as efficient as it's going to get, I think, with that
sure.
strategy.
Yeah, I dig that though. So it's really cool. Um, with that, um, is there any writing advice you received when you started going into prose writing? And is there another piece of advice you would like to pass along to other writers that you have learned over the years?
My main piece of advice for anyone who wants to write anything, like honestly, so like plays or scripts or books or a comic or anything like that, is that it just has to be done. So
Yeah,
a crappy first draft that you fix later is a lot better to work with than no first draft. So I feel like lots of writers are really stuck in this like mindset of perfectionism where like if it isn't like the exact thing that they're envisioning in their head and it isn't perfect on their first draft and they just like can't move forward. And like no one's first draft is perfect. I would argue that no one's first draft is even all that good. And that's just a step in the writing process that you like can fix later. You can make it good later, but you just have to make it first.
Yeah, you can't without a story, you don't have anything. So yes,
You know, like can't fix what's not there. So it's got to be there first.
exactly. So um, that's great advice. Basically, do the work. Do the work. That's the most important thing as a writer. What do writers do at the end of the day? Right. So,
Mm.
all right, Kaylee, it's your turn. What do you have for the people?
Yeah, anytime my face gets really big on the screen, I feel like I'm on like a game show, and me and Brianna are like doing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire together or something.
Do, 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 do.
Do. I have had friends who were on Jeopardy, and I've thought about auditioning a couple times. It's not related to this question, but I would say my advice. I totally agree with Brianna's, but to have something different to say, I guess for me, I think another thing that I really had to learn was you can only be yourself as an author. You can't be anyone else. That doesn't mean that you don't have influences. I often talk about the authors that I love and admire who have really changed me on an emotional and spiritual and psychological level. But ultimately, if you go into your writing thinking, oh, I'm just going to imitate X or I'm going to follow this trend, you're likely going to be just a bad version of X, or you're going to fall on the like tail end of a trend that will probably be done by the time you finish your book. So I would really encourage people to like look inside themselves and think about how they can be the best Kaylee Pedersen, Briana Cox, RJ Rules author they can be, rather than to try to follow or try to fit into some kind of mold. Of course, if let's say I don't know, dark academia is hot and you really want to write a dark academia, that's what you really love, like do it. But I'm just saying, you know, if you're trying to chase a trend or you feel like you need to make your book, you know, a certain way to appeal to the audience in a way that isn't authentic to you, I think people will tell and that will show.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an important thing to remember as a writer. Like, if you're going to chase trends, you're always going to be chasing them. Then, because the next thing is going to come along, and the next thing's going to come along, and by the time finish with what you thought was hip or cool or in vogue, then readers have moved on. So essentially, what you want to do is write for yourself, and only you can write the story that you have in your mind. So that's what makes it uniquely you. So I agree with you about that. Absolutely. And then, maybe sooner, maybe later, but your audience will find you. So, so that's great advice. I was trying to make sure we didn't have any questions. Remember, everyone, who's watching, if you have any questions for Kaylee or Brianna, just ask and I'll get to them. Um, this is kind of I guess to get this interview rolling. Brianna reached out to me on Instagram, and you both seem like you're probably on Instagram, but is there any Facebook for y'all, or y'all on separate platforms? Yeah,
Um,
either one of you can answer that.
are you just asking like where to find us online?
Well, not yeah. Where's your primary presence at when you talk about your books and your books? I'm ahead. Usually this is at the end, but this leads to one of my normal questions is about the writing community and what's your biggest surprise after joining the horror writing community. So I was trying to figure out where y'all's communities are at.
Yeah, I would say mainly I'm on my website, kayleepedersen.com, which on the front page, if you scroll down, has links to my Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. I would say those are the big three that I use. I just keep my Twitter to keep the name, but I don't use it very much. So that's mostly where you find me. My Facebook is more for like friends and family. What about you,
Okay.
Brianna?
Yeah, I am essentially the same. So I have my own author website. So it's Briana Incox Writer, where you can find links to like all of my other stuff. But I'm mostly on Instagram and Threads, which is like part of Instagram pretty much, and really involved in the writing and book community over there. Like Kaylee, I have a Facebook and I haven't logged into it for a very long time. So probably you will not find me there very often.
I've got family members who, so
Yeah,
as one does.
that's what I wanted to ask. So, how do you, I guess, together, you both are on Instagram pretty regularly. That's your chosen community. How do you find that for as a and maybe as horror writers? Instagram too, yeah.
Yeah, just in general, I've found like a lot of like success and a lot of fulfillment in kind of getting to know more people in the horror community on Instagram and like on Threads specifically, where it's much more like conversation driven, like similar to Twitter, but
Yeah,
less of a problem in my experience. It's been like a really, really fun time just expanding the amount of people who I know, the amount of people I've talked to. A lot of the people who I got to blurb my own book that's coming out, I at first got connected with on Instagram and Threads, and they were very open with like having that conversation with me. So it's been a really great kind of platform and like democratizing like who you have access to and when, which has its ups and downs in terms of like how good that is. But for me, it's been good so far.
yeah. Get Kelly for this one.
Yeah, I would say it's been interesting for me. I've made a lot of really wonderful connections. I would say like 99% of the interactions I've had have been great. I tend to have pretty bad social anxiety, so I find social media to be a really alienating, difficult space at times. But I found that just approaching it with authenticity and kindness has led to meeting some really wonderful people and making some great connections. So if you also have the same fear as me, I can say that most of the time it's pretty great. Me and Brianna know each other from an in-person thing long, long, long before. Well, I don't want to say how long ago, but
We are ancient.
a while ago. And so we already knew each other, but we kind of, I would say, reconnected over social media more recently. So that was really nice. I would say that most of the time the community has been so wonderful and like embracing, which is really great. I've been excited to see more conversations about queer and BIPOC literature, especially in the horror space. And I can totally recommend Brianna's amazing recommendation posts and their discourse. I tend to be more promotion oriented just because I tend to take breaks from social media and panic and can't really like get online sometimes. I would say, yeah, Brianna, I think you kind of hinted at this. Sometimes there is like a little bit of sort of free for allness that isn't that great. I have had like to see sometimes like anti-Semitism or like homophobia, unfortunately, online and like in these spaces, which is like really rare, but like it does happen. Or like getting tagged in like reviews where they're like, I hated this book. Like that kind of sucks too. But again, it happens. So I would
Yeah,
just say like most of the time, like 99.9%, it's been really positive for me. But you do have to like be cognizant to protect your mental health and like not engage if someone is like being really belligerent, if that makes sense.
yeah. It's a double edged sword. Social media. So you get the good with the bad, and typically, for the most part, I think the good generally outweighs the bad. But when the bad hits, it hits hard. So yes, I understand, and I think a lot of people have, um, especially in today's just climate, especially political climate, like it's just so heavy everywhere you turn to. So I think a lot of people are finally breaking the addiction to social media a little bit. Like a lot more people are just maybe logging off or spending more time with books, reading and such, that they don't have to just be dragged down in the quagmire that is certain aspects of the world. That, you know, the social media has always had that to it, but it's also been, it was supposed to be a place that you could escape your real life, but then your real life gets dragged back into it. So it's, people just have to figure it out. And like you said, especially for your mental health, like if you're online 24/7, you're just going to, I don't know, like it clouds your mind and just drags you down.
Yeah,
A
doom
lot of
scrolling.
depressive doom scrolling and just the endless conversations and back and forth between people. So yeah, um, there's no community out there that doesn't have drama pop up here and there. So it's inescapable. But um, we really try it with books of horror. We really try to just keep it simply as that with books of horror and nothing else. So um, but you did bring up some things. Now, I hopefully, I don't know if we have any questions from anyone yet, but um, with another topic that you two wanted to discuss, and that's the intersections of BIPOC and queer horror identity and horror. Um, I can't pretend to be an expert in that field, and I'm sure a lot of people that will watch this might not know what that is. So, um, could you please educate everyone on what that is and um, how how they might um, see that with what authors and people were trying to do with that. So, whoever wants to go, I will.
I mean, I can do just like the basic breakdown of it.
Yeah,
So BIPOC is like the newest iteration for like people of the global majority. So just like Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. So like people in that group or that umbrella writing books. And
yeah,
then queer is just the umbrella term for like the LGBTQ community. It's like gay and lesbian and bisexual and pansexual and trans and all of that stuff. I guess I should say non binary because I am that as well. So I should mention them. But all of those people in these various kind of marginalized communities who have not been kind of given as much attention just in the broad mainstream media sense, kind of just doing their own work that I think is really, really great personally.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, I have I've featured a lot of LGBTQ community on lives, and I've done um the month of February I've done for the Black author community. So, but there is, you know, people outside of those. So, um, I'm always looking to just give people a platform to talk about what it is their, uh, their art, what they love to do, and what they want to share with the world. Um, so it was really cool to that you reached out to me about this. So, what would you want to tell the folks about maybe? what they can do for those communities to help bring more awareness to them.
No, I think the good news is that it is super easy to like show support in this way, where it's just like, yeah, read the books and request the books at libraries and at bookstores and stuff. So horror specifically, I think you like walk into a bookstore and you go to their horror section and it's like Stephen King for five shelves and like Dean
Right.
Koontz for another shelf, then like one shelf that is everyone else who's writing horror.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do enjoy Stephen King, but there's a lot of people doing really, really like new and innovative stuff. And I believe me and Kaylee were talking about this on another interview at one point, just discussing how horror is kind of like driven by like new and unique perspectives that you haven't considered before. So when you are looking for horror books that like really like hit, you want to get authors who have a perspective that you haven't really seen before and who have perspectives that you haven't considered, because that's where the horror gets like really horrific a lot of the time. And if that is what you are looking for, those kind of lesser known authors, I think, are where you should be kind of spending more of your attention.
Yeah, I think you get that too with indie horror. Outside of mainstream horror, you get
Mm.
a lot more innovative ideas because they have the freedom to do so. So, um, this past, I think it was in, I can't remember the month. I want to say it was in September, the very end of September. I attended the Killer Pride Scares That Care Killer Pride event, and it was the inaugural event for them to do a LGBT um, focused event for the community, and they had authors there, but they had creators as well, like crafts and stuff, and movie makers and everything, and um, it was really cool to get to one attend an event like that because typically I would be set up as a vendor, but me and my wife, we just wanted to finally attend and just show support to Scares the Care and also the LGBT community. And it was one of the best events that I probably attended this year. It was a little low in attendance, but it was also a first time event for them. But they plan to do it more and more um, as time goes on. They just have to iron out the timing of the event so they have the space to do it in. Um, I don't know if see that's they primarily market on Facebook. So maybe I'll reach out to them and tell them that they need to expand on their social medias. But have you, either of you heard of the Scares That Care organization?
It rings a bell, but I haven't participated in any events personally.
Okay, so every year for the past 4 years, 5 years, they have held an event around springtime called AuthorCon. And Scares That Care AuthorCon. And what they are is they are a charity that hosts these events, and all the funds that they raise at these events they donate to families in need, and they pick a certain family for a certain ailment each time, and they give them a $10,000 check just to help them in their time of need. So that's why I think supporting Scares That Care is so important. But it was really cool to get to attend the Killer Pride event this year. So I would urge both of you to look into just the scaresthatcare.org. I think that's their website, and just take a peek at what they're about. And I think you would agree that they're doing really good stuff.
Awesome. If I can jump in really briefly, I just wanted to add on to something you said, Brianna, or were you didn't mean to interrupt you?
No, you're good.
Yeah, I think Brianna has brought up a lot of really great points about just the kind of queer and BIPOC communities. But one thing I wanted to emphasize, especially with like our conversation today, is that we don't conceive of those communities as like separate. Essentially, what we're trying to explore, I think, together is the intersection of BIPOC and queer, which is sort of its own unique thing. And this isn't to disparage at all the wider BIPOC or queer community, but I don't want to speak for you, Brianna, but I think there have been times where as like a BIPOC queer person, I haven't felt included in queer spaces, or I haven't felt included in BIPOC spaces because of these like different societal factors. So I think what we're trying to explore is like a space of identity where you have both this, I guess we might say, like homophobia and racism impacting us, but even beyond this, where it's not just your physical or visual reality of being a racialized person, but also your reality of your sexual orientation, your sort of emotional and like sensual reality that's being impacted by these identities, and how that manifests in horror, separate from quote unquote just being Asian or just being bisexual, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the intersections of it are very, very interesting. And like, I know it's kind of hard for a lot of people to like wrap their brain around, I think. But yes, the experience of being like a person of color who is also queer is a very, very kind of different experience than just being one of those things. So going back to what I was talking about with like unique experiences being kind of like the engine of new and interesting horror, kind of looking at that intersection where someone has been othered in like multiple axes of their identity and multiple aspects of how they interact with people, I think is really, really ripe for some interesting horror scenarios that you're seeing with a lot of like writers, both in like film and television and in books. And I am really excited that it's like getting to be like a more common and more supported thing, even as like out in the world stuff is getting very hectic. Like we're making some very, very good art right now, at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something for people to consider too. Like, yeah, you're not in this box or this box, but you're in multiple boxes. And like it's like you said, you face some difficulties in that because I guess I can't speak for y'all's experiences, but like you said, you've it sounds like you've um, had some prejudices against you from maybe one or the other because you come from both camps. I'm asking you. So like,
Yeah, I would say that. I think obviously going into why is there homophobia in among people of color, or why is there racism among the queer community is like a huge conversation that would take a very long time to dissect. But the
yeah,
reality is that no community is free from societal pressures, and these things can exist even within communities that strive to be welcoming and inclusive.
yeah,
And I think the reality of the world is that sometimes people just want you to be one thing only, and if you're too many things, it can be frightening or like uncomfortable for people, and they can respond in a certain way.
yeah. Um, hopefully, when people see things like this and then they read more of the art that the creators are putting out, they can that they might the people that might not have thought about it before, that they can see that everything and everyone is very multifaceted. It, like you're saying, like you don't just fit neatly into one description. Um, you have a lot of interesting things about you, and hopefully, um, one doesn't overshadow the other. Like this is who you are. So hopefully, people can can basically see that. I don't know where I'm trying to get to with this, but like you said, it's very multifaceted. Essentially, is what I gather from that. Um, and you said people sometimes people want you to be one thing or the other, and hopefully, um, the more that the more art that's out there that gets created by these communities, it brings more awareness that you know, and hopefully that people will start becoming more accepting of just of people for who they are. I think that's a big thing, especially in today's climate. Like just acceptance. Like it doesn't change your life one bit or change a person's life one bit how another person lives their life. So
Yeah, and there are like so many people who are like writing in that intersection now, who
yeah,
I really love shouting out in the horror space. So if anyone is watching and they're just not sure where to start with anything, like obviously Kaylee and I have books and we count as that. But there's also like Kosako Jackson and like Carmen Maria Machado and Cassandra Kaw and River Solomon and V. Castro and Amanda B. Weaver and all of these other horror writers who are doing really amazing work that is like coming from their experience and their like unique point of view in those different like intersections of identity that's like have like catalogs. It's not just one book. So I really encourage people to kind of dig into what those writers are doing
yeah,
because they've written in the past and they are still writing now, and just supporting them with your attention and just like buying their books is super important to make sure they can continue writing.
yeah. Just supporting them in general. Yes. I have a very dear friend that uh would be the intersection, and I don't know if you know him or not. His name is Roland Bursey Jr., and he is a gay black man that writes horror, and he writes some of the nastiest horror you've ever seen. But he is also one of the most sweetest people you will ever meet, and that's what's so funny about him is like the dichotomy of um, him being so sweet and writing these nasty books, but um, yeah, like he is one that I personally know that would be the intersect of those two communities. So
And like, I feel like I know his name. What books has he written?
I know for Payback is a Witch, and then he has Unbortion. That's probably his most famous one, Unbortion. I don't know if I have any right on hand right now. And then he has probably 6 to 10 books out there. So, but his cover art, he has a really great artist that does his cover art, and it's always just nasty. And I think it one recently was like tongue wrestling for tonsil stones. So, but yeah, Roland Bursey Jr., great guy, and he's I haven't seen him in a good long while. He hasn't been to too many cons, but anytime I get to hang out with him, it's always a great time to see him and gives the best hugs. So um, yeah, that's one person that off the top of my mind that falls into the category for the intersection of the BIPOC and the LGBTQ community. So another one, I don't know if y'all would know him, is Freak or JJ's House. See,
Oh
most
yeah.
of the, JJ.
Yeah, I have read, I think, one of JJ's books.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are enjoyable. I really recommend that one.
It's probably either Gig of the Damned or Lube Me Up with Fry Grease.
But yep, Gig of the Damned is the one I have read before.
Okay, yeah. He was at Killer Pride, like I was mentioning earlier. Really good writer, so yeah. Um, so yeah, just it's just like you were saying, it's important just for people to maybe branch out of their comfort zone and support these artists in their endeavors so we get more from them.
Mm.
I'm trying to see if we had any comments. I don't think we've had any yet. So, is there anything that. Okay, so let's talk a bit about y'all's published works. So, while I got Briana up here, tell the folks about the books that you have written and have published and where they can find them.
Yes, so I am not like brand new to novel writing, but this is my first novel that is getting published. I have some like short stories that have been published before in like the Bookends Review Best of 2020 anthology is I believe the most recent one. And so I have a bunch of scripts that may or may not be produced that people have given me money for. So I guess I appreciate that. So I will make sure to let you know if those actually get greenlit at any point
Right.
or if they're just going to be sending me money for forever. But yeah, the thing that you can get right now that I have written is that just like debut horror novel Indigent through Graveside Press. I am also like voice low, don't tell anybody I told you this, editing a BIPOC horror anthology that is coming out sometime next year. So that's going to be really fun as well. So keep your eyes out for that one. But yes, I'm doing way more in the book space in the coming years. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of me like later. But Kaylee's got a lot more stuff readily available.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, Brianna. Everybody definitely check out Indigent as it's coming out. It'll be super hot off the presses. For me, I have essentially a lot of poetry and creative nonfiction spanning from roughly 2015 to now. You can find links on my website under other works. Prior to becoming a novelist, I did a lot of that poetry and then creative nonfiction or lyric essays about my background as a Chinese American adoptee growing up in rural Nebraska. My first novel, Sacrificial Animals, released in August of 2024, and then recently came out in paperback this year. So if you want the paperback, it's out now. I highly recommend checking out Fountain Bookstore. I believe they have signed copies. And then my second novel, The Minimalist, we just got the ARCs, comes out August of 2026, August 18th, which is Salieri's birthday. Very fitting for a classical music themed novel. And very TBD, but my current work that I'm in progress is a Western. So currently working on my third novel.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just figured out my book is dropping on International Parasite Awareness Day, which is perfect.
Nice. Yeah, very fitting.
So yeah, Parasite horror book. Get it on Parasite Awareness Day.
Then become very aware of your parasites.
So I take it you both have the websites for each of your respective names. And would that be the best place for folks to find your, like if they wanted a signed copy of your books?
For a signed copy, Fountain Bookstore has some in paperback. I believe their website is fountainbookstore.com. And that's for Sacrificial Animals. I don't really know about signed copies of The Minimalist yet, but if you buy a copy and want me to sign one, feel free to DM me on Instagram. I'm pretty open to sending one back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and for Indigent, so you cannot pre-order a physical copy of that one yet. I believe physical copies come out like late February, early March for pre-order. But I am planning on just through my like Ko-Fi Coffee, no idea how to pronounce that website, offering signed copies where I will give like parts of the proceeds to like mutual aid for healthcare, since like healthcare and healthcare trauma is a big aspect of indigent. So I want to like give back to people who have that kind of need somehow through signed copies. So yeah, if you go to my Just Author website, the link to my coffee's on there, and that's where you could ask for more specific things.
All right. So, will either of you have any upcoming events, maybe in the tail end of this year or anytime next year, that you would went in person? Want to shout out or let people know if they wanted to meet you? Either. Whoever.
I
Cool.
actually am flying out tonight to go to Nebraska. So I have one in-person event this week at
There you
Sower
go.
Books in Lincoln, Nebraska on Friday. And then that Saturday, I'll be accepting my Nebraska Book Award at the ceremony in Nebraska. Other than that, not really until coming closer to the fall of 2026, since my next novel releases in August. I will probably mostly be active online, and then getting closer to the fall and the release date, I hope to have at least one or two events in New York City and maybe some more on the East Coast. I'm currently trying to pitch to some bookstores a haunted opera event in which I and my pianist perform excerpts of spooky operas and then do a book signing instead of a traditional author event. So if you want to host me for that, hit me up because I'd love to do that.
See, that sounds amazing. How could they not want to do that? You know? So,
Yeah, that does sound amazing, actually. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty similar. So Kaylee and I are doing kind of our podcast tour thing for the next few months. And then I have like a few in-person events planned in like the Southeast United States for the most part. So I'm Nashville based, so like a lot of like independent Nashville bookstores like Parnassus and 100 Taylor Street Books I'm planning on doing like in conversations and book signings at starting like probably like summer fall in 2026. And I
Okay.
am also trying to do some events in like Philadelphia, hopefully soon. We're in talks about it. But yeah, if you are in like Georgia or Tennessee, I'm doing a bunch of stuff there. So that's where you can find me in person if you want to see me in person for whatever reason.
Okay. Um, First off, shout out y'all's podcast so people can find it and listen.
Oh, we've been on a few so far. It's been the Horror Humor Hunger podcast with Vicky we just did.
Okay.
And we did one with the Dark Minds podcast as well, where we were touching on some stuff. Yeah, we've got a few more plans, but those are the ones off the top of my head that I know we did.
Okay, cool. So if anybody wants to find more of Brianna and Kaylee to listen, look those up. Second, you mentioned Tennessee. I am in Tennessee a lot, but I also go to Tennessee, Knoxville, for a book event that is probably going to have its third year event next year, and it's typically in the fall. The first 2 years have been great. I'm not too sure about the third year. It's called TBR Con.
All right, I'll have to look into that one. I know there's going to be, it's the first year running. It's specifically for Black speculative fiction authors, like horror, thriller, suspense.
Yeah.
It's like the Black Thriller Con, and that's going to be in Nashville in October, I believe, next year as well.
Okay.
So I'm planning on being there as well.
So TBR Con, it's a multi-genre convention, but there's a large horror section to it, and it's hosted by a horror author who is female. Her name's Megan Stockton.
Mhm.
Just all around great person, but I'm not. I don't want to say anything as to the future of it, but if everyone that attended has their way, there will be a third year. So um, I'll try and post on my like Instagram and stuff about it. There's a TBR Instagram for sure. So if you're interested in maybe attending that, it's just
Is that the one with Fanfi Addict, or am I thinking of a different TBR con?
TBR Con Knoxville.
Oh, no,
Has like a
Knoxville.
little, yeah, Knoxville. Always hosting.
Oh, sorry. There's a different one called TBR Con that's not in Knoxville, but I was confused. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like any excuse to go to Knoxville. That is a nice city. So I'm going to plan on going to that one if it's like happens next year.
yeah, and yeah, it's just a all around great event, and it's been growing and growing each year. So like last year was the inaugural, and then this year was the second year for it, and we're just hoping to see more and more from it each year. So um, definitely look into TBR Con. Um, you named a few earlier, but is there any other authors you want to shout out and make people aware of? They look into their books and throw their mind.
Yeah, Kaylee, do you have any off the top of your head? I have a literal list that I'm just going to read off of.
Yeah, you can read your list. My recommendations tend to be more literary oriented than just strictly horror, but I think two queer BIPOC authors I would recommend to folks would be James Baldwin and Ocean Vuong. Um, if people are open to kind of moving outside of just the strictly genre sphere, they both written some really wonderful Ocean Vuong in poetry, and then James Baldwin in essays and the novel Giovanni's Room.
Mhm. Yeah, both of them are excellent. And I am literally just going to read off this giant list I have
Let's go.
of authors who are both queer and people of color who do horror. So it's a big one. But yeah, so there's me, so Briana Cox, and then Kaylee Pedersen, and then Kusiko Jackson, Carmen Maria Machado, Amanda B. Weaver, River Solomon, V. Castro, Cassandra Kaw, Kaylin Bayron, Tori Bovalino, L.L. McKinney, Felita Hicks, Alkaze Emezi, Jewel Gomez, Amy Chu, Trong Ton Tran, Ellen Oye. I can never say her name. Helen Oyeyemi, Sophia Arjam, Zinni Rocklin, MJ Lyons, Del Sandine, Suni Dean, Beatrice LeBron, A.M. Souza, and Jameson Shea. There you go, a bunch of people.
Awesome. So if folks are wanting to branch out from their, if they haven't been, there is a large list of people to look into.
And all those people are ones I would give like 4 stars and above to their books. So highly recommend all of them.
Let's see. All right. So is there anything else that you two wanted to discuss?
I can't think of anything. Yeah, I mean, we went over so much. I feel like
We did.
I don't know. I guess I would just kind of, for me, I like to end on a note of encouragement to aspiring authors and readers out there, especially those who are also queer and or BIPOC. Keep going, keep pushing. It's a really tough industry, but you'll eventually find a place for yourself, I think, if you don't give up.
Yeah, that's great. One last time for anybody that joined late, where can people find you?
So for me, you can find me at my author website at Briana N. Cox Writer, or you can find me doing a bunch of like book and film recommendations on Instagram and Threads, which is at Pedro Paro 2, where I just recommend a bunch of stuff all the time if you're ever looking for recommendations.
Yeah, on my end, you can find me at my website, kayleepedersen.com. If you scroll down, there's just a list of all my social media accounts, but I'm usually on Blue Sky under the same username, and then also Kaylee_Pedersen on Instagram.
Yep. And don't make the same mistake that I did. All E's, there is no O in Pedersen.
Yeah,
Spell check hates every aspect of Kaylee's name.
it's rough out here, but at least I know if I go on Wheel of Fortune, I won't need to buy a vowel because I have so many.
There you go. All right. So, again, thank you both, Brianna and Kaylee, for joining me today. This will be up on YouTube shortly. So, I will email you the link for that later. Aside from offers and for all the watchers out there, I will support in this episode, also Brianna and Kaylee. So, thank you all for this, and next time, yeah.
Thank you.